Here's your coffee. Try not to throw it at the wall again.
I can't believe Nikke is forcing us to do this, as if Absolute has anything to learn from these weaklings.
A hero must always be working to become stronger, Yunhwa. This inter-manufacturer cooperation meeting is just the thing to help us learn new super moves to take down the Raptures.
Indeed, there is much all of you could learn from the fine knights who serve under the banner of the kingdom.
I find that hard to believe. Some of the Pilgrim's tactics are 100 years out of date. Also, why are you here?
Don't you remember? Nikke wanted the leaders of the strongest squads among each manufacturer to take part in this meeting. And who could be more of a leader than a king? Also, given that aside from me, Dorothy is the closest thing the Pilgrims have to a leader, I was chosen to come instead. As a representative that's less of a... what's the word?
Psychopathic, Machiavellian time bomb?
And why are you here, Sugar? Isn't PRIMA the leader of your squad?
Nikke thought PRIMA might not contribute much to this conversation, so Mustang sent me instead.
There's no time to waste. Let's get started with the tasks we've been assigned. Looks like the first is to rank all the squads on a tier list. Sheesh! Export is getting lazier and lazier with these segues.
What? There's no way Nikke actually ordered us to.
As king, I shall set down the rules. We'll be ranking most squads in Nikke. Rankings will be based primarily on how interesting, well-developed as characters, and important to the plot each squad is. Interesting, in this context, means a 20-episode anime season could be made only about the squad, and it would be entertaining and non-repetitive enough to keep your interest. Focus will be put on the quality and quantity of interactions between squad members. This isn't a power ranking list. A weak squad with an interesting theme and memorable moments will rank higher than an overpowered squad with bland or repetitive one-note personalities. Likewise, this isn't ranking how popular each individual member is. A squad with interesting members who never interact, or one character who gets all the attention while the others are ignored, will be ranked lower than one where the squad actually acts like a squad. We are judging how squaddy each squad is. And Cham just texted telling me that squaddy is not a word. However, as king, I shall declare it to be a word. It is my duty to expand the borders of my kingdom and the English language. Back to the rules. Squads that consist of only one Nikke will not be covered, as the entire point of this list is to rank how squad members interact with each other. These solo squads, which we won't be covering, include Marion's old squad, Silver Gun, Anne's squad, Recall and Release, Ether's squad, MMR, Marciana's squad, Academia, Julia's squad, Master Hand, Kilo's squad, Heavy Graham, and the newest addition, Phantom's squad, Bestseller. Collaboration unit squads also won't be ranked, and neither will the Replace squad. And finally, the Heretics won't be ranked as a squad because it's really more a classification than a group.
Let's just get this over with. It seems we'll be starting with my fellow Elysian squads.
We could probably save time by just ranking them all in F. Elysian is the red-headed stepchild of ShiftUp. If they can't be bothered to even make Elysian units, they also probably can't be bothered to write stories for them.
Hey, the way of justice requires giving everyone a fair trial. While gameplay-wise, Elysian might be the weakest of the weak, they do get a lot of love in the story. Like this first squad, Absolute.
Absolute is an obvious S tier. Our story appearances are both memorable and frequent, not to mention we are key to Rappy's backstory. And the banter between myself, Emma, and Vesti is second to none.
Agreed. You all have such distinct personalities, and the interactions between you three are beautiful. It sets the standard for how we will be judging squads moving forward. S tier.
Steaming ahead next is Infinity Rail.
Might as well just call this the Diesel Squad, as she's the only member of this team that gets to be in the limelight.
I'll never understand how a weakling like her is constantly placed in ads with the counters. She barely shows up in the story.
The relationship between squad members is nothing noteworthy, and their interactions with each other are hardly memorable. C tier.
Going from a few appearances in the story to none, it's the Scouts.
These two could be replaced by mass-produced Nikkes and almost nothing would change. The relationship is as boring as it comes. The most interesting mystery about them is why in the world the devs made Signal and SSR. D tier. Staying out of F tier only because their brief encounter events are mildly entertaining.
Now for a squad with a cannon almost as powerful as my own. It's the AEGIS squad.
A brave captain leading her crew to victory. Truly, such bravery is worthy of becoming a Knight of the Kingdom. I shall send an invitation at once. Back to the list though. The story of Helen coming into her own as a leader during part 2 of the first summer event is spectacular. Anchor and Mass play off each other perfectly as a comedy duo, and the three of them even helped run a sushi restaurant together.
They did what?
For having a great story, though admittedly a story that is mostly self-contained and irrelevant to the overall main story, they shall be rewarded with placement in A tier.
Elysian's Black Ops squad is next, Extrinsic.
Two powerful, complex, lovable characters. Just one problem. They're barely a squad, and that's what we're ranking. They don't really interact outside of a few brief scenes, and those interactions are all business. And it's not like Maiden has some special relationship or understanding with Guillotine. She treats Guillotine pretty much the same way everyone else does. F tier.
Next is the squad that fights for justice just like me. It's the A.C.P.U.
How these jokers ever graduated the Arc Police Academy is beyond me. However, I will admit they have a humorous if somewhat simple dynamic, and they show up in the main story and events surprisingly often as supporting characters. B tier.
And now for another squad that enforces justice, if a bit more harshly, it's Perilous Siege.
This is pretty much the squad that made Export include the caveat about squads where only one member gets attention. This is like the Infinity Rail situation, cranked up to 100 scoops of sugar.
Oh, that reminds me. Would Cafe Sweetie please deliver 200 pounds of sugar to the kingdom? Chime and I are in desperate need of something to make Marian's cooking more palatable. Back to Perilous Siege, though. This is basically the D squad, as K is a mere afterthought. Their relationship as teammates hasn't been explored at all. For that, I sentence this crime of a squad to F tier.
After that ridiculous food demand, I think I found a squad that's almost as dramatic as you. It's Pathfinder.
What kind of delivery woman doesn't have a motorcycle? F tier.
I assure you, they are most certainly not F tier. Despite only having recently been introduced, this squad has a more complex and impactful dynamic than many squads that have existed far longer. The pack they made to, as the kids say, Minecraft themselves if Liverin did another job for Sixo, and Liverin's betrayal of Fragile's trust are just so shocking and interesting and could lead to so many places. For now, I shall place them in B tier, but as their story develops, they could rise even further.
And now the second half of the new squads introduced in Chapter 27, and the last of the Elysian squads. It's Hammer and Drill.
Much like Absolute's greatness is overshadowed by a lucky newbie commander and a bunch of ancient relics wandering the surface, likewise Hammer and Drill are overshadowed by Pathfinder. Hammering and Drilly are fine characters, and they clearly have a deep connection with how hard Drilly was willing to go to save her, but it still doesn't have the impact of the Pathfinder story. This hurts them even more, because like Pathfinder, the two haven't had much screen time to develop their squad's story. D tier.
Hero entrance! It's now time for the Missilist squads, and that starts with the greatest ultra heroes of the Arc, Matisse.
Aren't you just Absolute, but without the emo color palette?
They are nothing like Absolute. Absolute is a squad of 3 Nikkes, one with a more serious personality who is constantly butting heads with the more comedic two. They are powerful and involved in several key fights in the story. Matisse, on the other hand, is... oh, crap.
That means we go in S tier. And with our tragic fall to corruption and fight for our reputation after the whole nymph removal thing, we get to go above even Absolute.
Speaking of tragic stories and terrible decisions by Suen, next is Wardress.
Remember, this entire list is about how interesting the relationships are between members of a given squad, and its importance to the story. With that criteria, it's undeniable that Wardress gets high marks, and also likely some bruising and shortness of breath to go along with those marks, if Uni has anything to say about it. S tier.
I'd like to put all the mistakes of that bratty CEO of Missilus into a giant crate and dump it into the ocean. And if I had to order that crate, I'd trust this next squad to build it. Mighty Tools.
These guys love me.
Really? Why?
They told me 90% of their profit comes from people paying them to replace windows I've heroically entered through to save the day.
Back to the squad. They have a fun, simple relationship and are loved by pretty much everyone. The thing is, whenever they show up, they're never really the focus of the story. They always act like a MacGuffin, there to magically fix or build something and then leave. Maybe one day we'll get more interesting interaction between Leader and Senti, but for now they go as a solid B tier. They're also the only multi-Nikke squad where each member has a song for them made by Export. Check out Letter's theme, The Burst One Queen, and Senti's theme, Raise and Rebuild.
Right. Well, here's more proof of how bad a CEO Suen is. It's a bunch of criminals that all came from Missilus. Here's real kindness.
This can barely even be considered a squad. They don't work together, and I'm having trouble remembering when they even interacted on screen. Aside from some minor lines they have referencing each other, they might as well be strangers. F tier.
These next two might not be criminals, but they will definitely land you in jail. It's Dazzling Pearl.
If this was about power, they'd go in S tier. But as a squad, they're just a pair of friends. There's nothing really interesting about their relationship or story.
The real dramatic story here is the fanfiction around how Nade dumped Tia for me. D tier.
You want dramatic storytelling? Well, this last missless squad, Electric Shock, smacks you right in the face with drama. Their story is almost as powerful as my hero punch. Almost.
It's kind of amazing these two managed to go from being introduced, to both being released, to both being in the main story, to probably being the key to finding out about the arc's origins, all in the span of just a few months.
And their love and care for each other is truly a thing of beauty. The iconic wallpaper of Trony hiding in her room and Elig on the outside of the door will always move me to tears. S tier.
Speaking of wallpaper, check out the wallpaper tier list in the title card above and the description below. Crown, Chime, Kilo, and Marion rank every event wallpaper in the game, all while trying to stop Crown from covering the entire kingdom in movie posters of the Last Kingdom wallpaper. It's hilarious. Check it out.
Is Export paying you to deliver these ad reads?
A professional doesn't reveal client details, but if you're interested, the price is $5. I only accept payments and super thanks in the comments below.
As if I would ever need you to. Actually, now that I think about it, Marion did forward me a disturbing 500-page fanfic about her and the weakling. It would be funny to have you deliver an ad for it to Rappy.
Well, that evil plan will have to wait, villain, because next up we're ranking the Tetra line, starting with Cafe Sweetie.
Well, the other top squads of each manufacturer got S tier, so that means we should too, right?
Unfortunately, no. Absolute has their mysterious connection to Rappy, critical parts in the main story, and a fun dynamic of torturing Yunhua. Matisse has an interesting backstory with Suen, a roller coaster of a role in the campaign, and a constantly hilarious superhero gag. Cafe Sweetie has... well, not much in comparison. The fight over coffee flavors doesn't have as much flexibility as a joke compared to the superhero fantasy. You three don't really interact on a deep personal level, and your role in the main story is always as background support. Sorry, Sugar, but Cafe Sweetie goes in B tier.
This is ridiculous. I need to go hop on Black Typhoon, rev up the engine, and blow off some steam.
By riding around, right? You're going to blow off some steam by riding around, right?
Oh, I'll be riding something all right.
I know Nikkes can't marry humans, but can Nikkes marry other machines?
Oh, screw this conversation. What's next? Prima Donna? They barely interact, and when they do, it's bland. F tier. Next squad, and for the love of God, can we please move on from this topic?
Next is a squad where 3 sexy ladies get assigned by Mustang to manage a big part of the Ark's economy. It's Talentum.
They've got a good dynamic and a lot of fun interactions. Their backstories as a squad and individuals are interesting. And while never the main focus of any story, they are always popping up. A's here.
And now for these rugrats, it's the CARRONADES.
While yes, most may find Ballorda's sense of humor grating, there's no denying these two are the very definition of a tight-knit squad. Even their backstories intertwine, though placing that critical story bit deep inside a rather bloated Christmas event may not have been the best decision. My sole criticism is that their current interactions in the present are rather repetitive and one-note. Still, for being one of only a handful of squads who were together even before becoming Nikkes, the CARRONADES go in high B tier.
Careful, Laplace. You're spilling my precious sugar coffee everywhere.
Have no fear, for I know exactly who can help us clean it up. It's the Made for You squad.
They're maids. They do maid things. Nothing amazing or terrible about them. They're pretty much exactly what you'd expect. C tier, for being so average in their interactions and theme.
Another squad that operates in the shadows, another pair that barely interacts. It's the Protocol squad.
If you were Exia, would you want Novel helping you complete a job?
Fair point.
While not as bad as the Perilous Siege situation, this pairing also has little interaction together as a squad. Exia vastly outshines Novel. D tier.
Oh, hey, look! It's that squad that takes care of all the kittens I rescue from trees. It's Happy Zoo.
They're so sugary sweet, it's almost giving me a toothache. Not that that's a bad thing.
Much like Made for You before them, Happy Zoo is a squad that works well together without being anything exceptional. Leona is the only one of them with anything approaching a compelling character story, unless trauma bonding with Nero counts as a compelling character story. Regardless, high C tier.
Next is a squad where 3 sexy ladies get assigned by Mustang to manage a big part of the Ark's economy. It's Underworld Queen.
Maybe the reason Tetra has so many Nikkes is because Mustang keeps repeating his squad ideas. In case any of you weaklings missed the joke, this is basically Talentum but for the Outer Rim.
As someone who knows the Outer Rim, I'll be the first to tell you, that's selling them short. The rivalry, teamwork, and backstory of this squad is far more interesting than Talentum's. Talentum is the rookie league, but this squad is the majors. S tier.
You must have been lucky to escape the hive of scum and villainy that is the Outer Rim, Sugar. If you need to recharge your luck, you should visit this next squad, 777.
As of the time of the writing of this script, Rouge has just been released from NPC jail, and I must say she makes an excellent addition to this already well-loved squad. The Lucky Bunny Sisters angle had grown stale in terms of squad interaction a very long time ago. This addition adds a chance for some much-needed depth, or really any interaction besides the "we are sisters and we're here to give you luck" angle. High C tier, though if they eventually explore the sisters' lives before becoming Nikke's, I could easily promote this to B or even A tier.
This last squad for Tetra is a clear ripoff of Elysian.
Hey, the boss would never steal from you guys.
Then why is this just an aged-up version of Naga and Tia?
They're not that similar.
No need to worry, Yunhwa, because much like Naga and Tia, this squad is both irrelevant to the plot and not really that interesting. I mean, their interactions and conflict was definitely better written than the Dazzling Pearl Squad story, but not by much. And Clay barely interacts with Faye in the Clay Moore event. C tier.
Now we shall move on to the intercourse squads.
The
The
what?
hell?
One moment. I'm getting another message from Chime. Ah, I see. Apparently the term is intermanufacturer squads, which I knew, of course. I was merely making a joke. Starting with the protagonist of this epic, the Counters.
They are the heroes of this story. They've had more screen time than any other squad and shine a light for all other squads to follow.
While the yellow and blue one are nothing special, Rappy drags them along to success. Which shouldn't be surprising, as any member of Absolute, even a former one, will be interesting enough to carry an entire squad.
They're what every other squad aspires to be. Each member is their own character. But the way they come together to make some of the most memorable interactions easily lands them in S tier.
And now for the total opposite, Nepenthe.
Who? Never heard of them.
That joke was funnier in the top 10 most forgotten Nikke's tier list. Link in the title card and description.
Now who's getting paid for ad reads?
This squad has almost no screen time, no events focused on them. One of them is still in NPC jail, and the few times they've appeared, the three members barely interact. F tier.
With this next squad, we once again have a case of one member getting all the attention, while the others are left to wallow in obscurity. It's Triangle.
I suppose they at least have the benefit of showing up in the main story, and I support them giving Weakling a hard time. During their brief appearance, they do seem to have an interesting relationship with each other, but it pales in comparison to the character development of many other squads.
The Parody squad gets D, which is both what she wants and will never get.
Guys, my superhero senses are tingling. I think this is the moment in the tier list where Export makes everybody angry. I've been told it happens at least once in every tier list.
Great, it's these jerks from the Outer Rim. I've dealt with a lot of trash out there, and they certainly take the cake as the worst of the worst.
I must again reiterate, this is not a tier list of how much we like individual squad members, but instead how compelling their stories and relationships with each other are.
That these mad dogs weren't put down ages ago is inexcusable. However, I can't deny the squad is critical to the story, and the infighting and mind games the three play against each other is entertaining if nothing else.
The duplicity of Viper, the wackiness of Jackal, and the scheming of Crow all mixed together to be a memorable and unique squad. High B tier.
Going from a squad that will stab each other in the back to a squad that will push each other from the front. It's Seraphim.
It seems like the squads that have members who knew each other before becoming Nikke's always have a leg up on the competition. The entire story of Mary and Pepper's relationship is as sad as it is perfect.
The only downside is that it feels like they hit a plateau in their story. The first summer event would have been the perfect time for Pepper to remember killing Mary, and that could have led to all new conflicts and character developments for both of them. But instead they just reset back to square one. Even with that gripe, I'd still put them in A tier.
Next is Unlimited. They're an inter-manufacturer squad.
Oh yeah, I remember. Tove got added to them and she's from Missilis. Before then, they were all Tetra.
Got added and then almost as quickly forgotten. Just like her predecessor, Neve. This squad is really just the Ludmilla and Alice squad.
Harsh, but fair. Funny enough, if Tove and Neve weren't part of this squad, I'd actually rank it in S tier for the very unique relationship Ludmilla and Alice have, and their importance to the story. However, this tier list is measuring how all members of the squad interact with each other, and the two newest additions are unfortunately bereft of much interaction with the original duo. B tier.
And now for the final intermanufacturer squad, it's School Circle.
Remember what we said about the original schoolgirls and about the cheerleaders? Yeah, just copy-paste that here and quit wasting my time.
Hey, their relationship is a bit more complex than that. Ein's insecurity, Zwei's self-loathing, Ray's Rayness.
They each have personal flaws and struggles, and work together to overcome them. They are a great example of how a squad should work, where each character's story depends on and interacts with the others, even if those stories are essentially irrelevant to the plot. Well, unless you count the Evangelion event. But do collabs even count as canon? Either way, a strong B tier. Now we come to what everyone has been waiting for. It is what led me to traversing the vast surface to be here for this meeting. I shall now extol the virtues of the Pilgrim Squads, starting with the first and greatest of all, the Goddess Squad.
Laying the praise on a little thick, aren't we? They aren't.
Yunhwa, stow the tsundere attitude and shut up.
Thank you, Sugar. As I was saying, this is the squad. The two most beloved events, Overzone and Red Ash, revolve around these characters and their relationships. Each member has more depth to their story than many entire squads. They mesh together great, with memorable, emotional scenes, as well as comedic moments. And their lore is intrinsically tied to the greatest mysteries in the Nikke story.
They are what every hero aspires to be. Well, except their downfall, and getting stuck on the surface for 100 years. But forget that, the point is they are the GOAT! The very top of S tier.
Well, if you're done fawning over the Goddess Squad, we can move on to... What? Why is Pioneer on here? We just covered them.
You know, for a sniper, I thought you'd be more detail-oriented. The personalities and squad dynamic of the Pioneer members are as different from their originals as Sugar Coffee and Milk Coffee. However, unlike in that comparison, in this case, both are great.
The previous squad were a Marvel superhero movie, where everyone is hopeful and fighting for a brighter future. This squad is more like a DC superhero movie, all darker and grittier.
Like fine wine, 100 years has transformed Snow White, Rapunzel, and Scarlet, but they are in no way less fun to watch interact, and their importance to the story goes without saying. While they may be reluctant citizens of the kingdom, that has no bearing on my decision to bestow on them the coveted rank of S tier, just below the original Goddess Squad.
This delivery is almost done. Only 2 squads left. Next is Inherit.
This squad could have easily had the major issue Perilous Siege and Triangle have, where one character completely steals the spotlight and barely interacts with the others. However, so many chapters were dedicated to Eden that it gave ShiftUp enough time to develop the members of this squad and establish their unique relationship with Dorothy.
You have to admit, though, Dorothy has been getting more and more of the spotlight in recent chapters, and it's been quite a while since we've gotten any updates on the rest of Inherit. A tier.
As a king, it is my duty to put the needs of my subjects before myself. That is why I allowed all others to go before me. But now it is time for the radiance of the kingdom to inspire all other squads to one day reach the perfection that is the White Knight Squad.
Oh, get over yourself.
Watch your tongue. Don't make me get naked.
What?
What I meant to say was, Chime and I make quite possibly the best comedic duo in the game. But we are more than merely a squad that shows up in the story to deliver a joke. We are also deeply tied to the future retaking of the surface, with a secret regard within the kingdom. Not to mention the adorable Kilo is practically an honorary member. S tier.
Finally, we're done. I'm leaving.
Wait, we have to do the outro.
Thanks for watching, partner. Share your ideas for any future tier lists or videos.
Hit the like button, check out the other tier lists and fan songs on the channel, and share the video around. It really helps.
And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe for more Nikke content. Until we meet again, Commander, farewell.
Haters cry, one-hit wonder. My skin, they're trying to get under. Bad news for them, I guess, 'cause under pressure I look best. So take a seat and grab a pen. Need some inspiration to begin. Come on, producer, don't act coy. Together, let's make some noise. Let's make some noise.